weekly report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone. Intercepted. The 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Matt Ware. Midfield. He's at the 40. He's going to go. Deshaun Jackson. He steps up his head and falls forward. He fumbles the football and the Eagles have it. It's gone. And the Eagles win.
It's all birds. All the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AATBirds Weekly Report. On myself, Johnny Ulecka, is joined as always by Chip at Chip for the Birds. And we're going to talk some camp reactions and overreactions. There's a lot to it. There's been a lot of stuff going on. I know this is our unscheduled. Usually we do Wednesday nights, but stuff happens and we pushed it back. So now we got a Sunday night show, and you know, that's what it is. Eagles are this upcoming week, this Friday, they start the preseason. So there's a lot to get into. There's a lot of players taking some reps with the first teams. Some players who are, underwhelming.
That's the overreaction.
Yeah. So we'll see. Listen, I think a lot of it is, I love seeing like who's playing on the first teams, who's doing this, who's doing that, because it gives us kind of a take of what the coaching staff sees with some of these players. And some of it's pretty interesting. And I think I want to start off with this. I want to start off with Zach Bond. Zach Bond in the OTAs was getting some ploy and everything like that. What's up, Adam? And he's still running with the ones. And, a guy that didn't play a whole bunch in New Orleans, was an edge rusher in Wisconsin and played a lot of special teams with New Orleans, was on the field very, small amounts. And he's getting the runs with Devin White at the number one. It really puts your eyes on what's going on with Nakobe Dean, because in that open practice, Nakobe Dean did struggle in pass coverage with Kenny Gainwell. There's a couple times where he just wasn't able to keep up with him. And it's not like Kenny Gainwell is the fastest guy on the planet. And I think it really shows. And, I was having a conversation today about Nakobe Dean. It may be a point where either he's a special teamer only, or you could potentially see him not being on this roster. And it's going to be interesting to see with what goes on with that.
So I think he'll make the roster. I think he's too high of a pick for him not to make the roster. I think that, it's concerning that a player that was drafted that high still cannot find the field. I know he's had his injuries, but at some point he's got to play to that level, or the team has to move on from him. I just don't see the Eagles taking Nakobe Dean and giving him up for nothing. I could see them trying to use this preseason to upsell him a little bit.
Yeah.
And trade him for something, especially because we have some linebackers who are playing okay. But fact of the matter is Nakobe Dean absolutely has to be on the field this preseason.
Yeah, you're going to want him. You want to see him excel, because, we've waited. This is year 3. You don't get a whole lot of time to prove yourself. And especially when you have some young guys. I think the one thing for him is Oren Burks isn't practicing. He's got a knee issue, and that's not good for a free agent acquisition trying to make the roster and can't get on the field. So, and what that does is it brings up 2 other guys. When you look at Ben Van Sumeren, who played in the Giants game last year, a big-time special teams player, very raw, but he's super athletic linebacker. And a guy like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was running with the ones today. And listen, it's interesting to see, but
So, all right, let me throw the first overreaction up in here. The phrase "running with the ones," or running with literally anybody, in my opinion, is an overreaction.
I think you're just mad because of the tweet that I sent you
Oh, that's
about.
a huge overreaction, sir.
I don't think so. We will talk about that a little later, but go ahead, keep going.
But my point is this: look, we understand that a lot of our studs are not going to get meaningful reps in the preseason. That's just not the way it happens in the NFL. So the phrase "running with the ones," I mean, you still have to put out a product that is competitive, moderately, that knows the team, even if you're not going to actually see them in those roles as the season progresses. So, yes, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is running with the ones. That's awesome. Yes, a certain quarterback who I think is the poop of my shoe is running with the twos. I just want to see how it all shakes out as the preseason goes on.
Yeah, we'll see. And I think that term does mean something.
Poop on my shoes?
No, not poop on your shoes.
Poop on my shoes.
I'm talking more the running with the ones. Players who are getting more reps. And I'm going to spin it this way. When you look at a guy like Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, so that was one of my guys who's starting to show some stuff already.
So, he's a big frame, big body type of receiver. Kellen Moore likes to run 3 receiver sets. There's certain stuff that he likes to employ in his office. And another thing that's great to see is during the open practice, you're seeing, and even regular practices too, but the open practice is where all the fans, the eyes able to see them in action. Jalen under center, using motion, play action, all this kind of stuff that we really wanted to see the last couple years. When you look at the Nick Sirianni offense and the way it was deployed, Kellen Moore is really bringing to light what they can do with this offense. And you have guys who are uber talented in an AJ Brown and a Devontae Smith and a Dallas Goedert and a Saquon Barkley. But, going back on, talking about Johnny Wilson, he's one of the best first names. But yeah, I had to sneak that in there. Come on. So, he's got the huge frame and I think, you can't really the running with the ones, because when you look at it, Paris Campbell, John Ross, those are guys that got a little bit of play.
Sure.
And you look at Britton Covey, basically as their third receiver, fourth receiver. But you don't hear much of Anaya Smith, who is another draft pick who was drafted before Johnny Wilson. So Johnny Wilson is starting to show a little bit. And listen, the guy has all the tools. It's just putting it together, making sure he's catching the ball, having the drops, and just he's got the size. I think he's 6'6", 240, 235, 240. So that's huge.
But remember, so he's obviously going to get, like you mentioned, he was drafted after some of these other guys. So they want to see as much as they can before they stash him on the practice squad.
See, the only thing is this. I think a guy like Anaya Smith would be the one to get let go to the practice squad than Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson's size and everything, I could definitely see it being claimed. So there's a lot that goes into it, because when you look on the defensive side of the ball, when you're looking at overreactions and reactions, my reaction to the secondary is we have one of the best cornerback groups that we've seen on the Eagles for quite some time.
Quinyon Mitchell is going to be a day one starter.
Quinyon Mitchell is
playing
the slot, playing on the outside, talking trash. He wants to get better. What better to have guys like Devontae and AJ Brown going up against them in practice every day. Isaiah Rodgers is holding his own. Keely Ringo, we talked about him. He's holding his own. You have all these guys, and then you even look, Cooper DeJean's not on the field yet because of the hamstring. He's still there.
And they were able to cut guys. Like Mario Goodrich is gone.
Yeah. Well, he's with the Giants now, so we'll see. Maybe we'll see him. But yeah, no, you're right. Because you also look at a guy like
I think it was last week, how stacked our corner room was.
Yeah. Eli Ricks, a guy you really haven't heard about. and last year played pretty decent when he was thrown into, the role there. He has all the size and he's still super young. So there's going to be a point. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to keep all these corners.
No.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And I think that's one position group when you go into the preseason game 1, seeing how it's worked and, how some of these guys look. But I think the one overreaction here is that your Maddox and James Bradbury running in the twos, it'll be okay. I think that is one huge overreaction because I think a veteran safety needs to be signed because they're coming off the board quickly. Kareem Jackson's off the board. You have Terrell Burgess is off the board. Quandre Diggs was just signed today. So these guys are going off of the board. There's still a handful of guys left, veterans who I would add definitely as a backup there because I don't know when Sidney Brown's going to get back, if he's going to start the season on PUP. Because I understand his progression and his rehab is going so well, but you have to look at it.
And he looked fantastic last year. But he's missing quality reps with a new defensive coordinator.
But also he got hurt in January. It's only 7 months for an ACL injury reconstruction. It's sometimes you don't want to rush a guy back, especially a young player that you're counting on to be a focal point of your defense for the coming years. You don't want to rush him back when you really do not need to do that.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But it's funny when you look at camp and you see all the stuff that gets thrown out there and all the overreactions and, reactions, everything. But to me, I'm a little bit worried about the offensive guard situation. I know Landon Dickerson will be back. I know he's got a toe thing. But Tyler Steen I think is an ankle injury. He's out for a little bit there. Mekhi Becton was out today with an illness, but
so at least he didn't puke on the field today.
Yeah, and the Eagles did sign Nick Gates, who was formerly of the Washington Commanders, and then before that was with the New York Giants. He had a horrific leg injury a few years ago, but able to come back. He plays center and plays guard. He's played right tackle for the Giants.
Multiple positional stuff. That's what I'm telling you. They love it.
Multiple positions, and I think for him is he's more of the backup center because it's just I think that's where he plays best. And it's funny, he's going to be wearing number 61. He has long hair. It's almost like a Steve Everett. I don't know if you remember him. He was before like a rock and roll, long haired number 61. It's like I'm like, oh, look at that. Isn't that interesting? Because it's the way he looks. But I get that Steve Everett vibe. If any of you guys know who Steve Everett, former center of the Philadelphia Eagles, former
he did
Michigan.
not make your list, Johnny.
He did not make my list. Yeah, no, he did not. So, but no, they got some depth there.
Right?
What?
He was 102, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Maybe 103. But yeah, we'll see with that. But taking a look at this roster, do you have any concerns when you're looking into camp and injuries right now and what you've seen, what you've heard? What is your main concern or overreaction?
I mean, all right. So, and this might be, part of my usual takeage. The Eagles waive a 48th string tight end, McAllen Castles. They claim Kevin Folish from the Jets, right? Which says to me, I mean, again, they're always looking to upgrade positions. I understand that. So my ridiculous overreaction is the tight end room is still weak as hell. Which we know past Dallas Goedert to be true. I think that none of the guys that they've brought in have really shown anything.
You've heard nothing from CJ Uzoma.
You've heard nothing from the end room.
You hear a little bit about Calcaterra playing and stuff.
He's a blocking tight end at best.
He's not a blocking tight end. He's more a receiving tight end, unfortunately. The guy to keep your eye on, and
Alberto.
No, I have a different guy. Maybe we'll talk about him next week in depth. But it's EJ Jenkins.
Yeah,
he is a guy that I'm interested to see. And I think the reason
I know that this is not the most exciting take ever, but again, I'm looking at this tight end room and it's just not blowing me away.
this is where I could see. So, and this is where I mentioned earlier about a Nakobe Dean. Oh, if he's not playing well, potentially you can trade him, everything. This could be a swap of a young tight end or a tight end that's, I'm going to be on the way out, a veteran, or whatever it may be, a 1-for-1 swap. Because don't discount this. The Eagles linebacker coach did coach Zach Cunningham in 2 different spots. I know Zach Cunningham is a free agent. He was here last year. If he's one of your backup linebackers behind Vaughn, I have no issues with that. I like the way Zach Cunningham played last year. Is he an all-pro? No, but he's a serviceable linebacker that I'd more than happy to have on my team. And unfortunately, it may be an overreaction, but I don't know. I don't think Nakobe Dean is going to be on the Eagles this season. I think he's going to be cut or he's going to be traded. Right now, the way it stands right now. Now this could change if he plays in the preseason, looks pretty good and stuff could definitely change. But as of right now, that is one of my predictions here.
And I think that's fair. I mean, you look at again, he's got to get on the field and he's got to dominate once he gets there.
Oh, no doubt.
And by not doing that, by giving it literally any kind of wiggle room, I mean, he's setting himself up as somebody that isn't needed on this team, which is kind of the last place you want to be on a team that is going to make runs at a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just don't know. There's just a huge question mark.
It's a massive question. I think it's a huge question mark.
And we'll see. We're gonna see what's gonna happen with that. But the one thing I love to see is, and I did notice it too. I don't know if you noticed it when you're looking at Jalen Hurts. He's looked really good. I know last year struggled a little bit in preseason or in training camp, whatever it is. He's looked really good. But some of the clips, I don't know if you happen to see him. He looks a lot quicker. Like he doesn't look as slow as he did last year. Now, of course, that may change when the games come and stuff like that. But right now, looking at him in practice, he sprinted racing Dallas Goedert in one of the clips the Eagles posted. On the field, he just looks a lot quicker and more precise. And I'm just so excited to see what Kellen Moore does with this offense. And I think I'm more excited. Like I love defense. I love, having a veteran defensive coordinator like a Fangio. So that I'm more excited to see what Kellen Moore does with the offense, whether it's the motion stuff, how they deploy Saquon, how Jalen looks in his system. I'm so much more interested to see Kellen Moore in this offense.
I agree. And I think that, the move to Kellen Moore was so vital. I mean, we looked at what the offense and the defense was last year, and it was just an abomination. And the one thing you said many minutes ago was that this is Nick Sirianni's offense. It's not. You brought in Kellen Moore to run Nick Sirianni's offense. It's not Nick Sirianni's offense. Nick Sirianni is the game managing head coach. He is the overseer of it all. And I think that was part of the issue with bringing in Brian Johnson, because Nick Sirianni had to focus more on the offense because you went from a guy who controlled every aspect of the offense to somebody who needed to be micromanaged because he had never been an offensive coordinator before. So I do think that Kellen Moore is underrated. One of the biggest acquisitions the Eagles had this year.
So I just sent you, it's funny how we're talking about this and it pops up. I just sent you a clip that, looks very fast this year. It's just interesting how it happened to just pop up.
Mm-hmm.
But you can watch that while I answer some of these. So Adam has a question here. Who are you guys most excited to see during the preseason? Listen, I'm one of those sickos that
I want to see it all.
I'll watch the third and fourth quarters, the third and fourth stringers, and then I'll go back and rewatch it. I want to see who breaks out. I want to see especially with the wide receiver 3, who takes that role. whether it's Paris Campbell, John Ross, Britton Covey, Johnny Wilson, who it is that breaks out and becomes that wide receiver 3 and,
I
able
think
to
that
separate
is,
themselves.
yeah, I think specifically wide receiver 3. I think that is one position when you look at this roster up and down. That is one position that is way up for grabs.
Yeah. And then, Adam also puts this, Jalen is 100% healthy. The one run play at the open practice, he actually had stutter steps when running. He didn't have that last year.
Because remember, last year from week 1, and we knew it, Jalen was expected to be 95% of the offense.
I think he was a little banged up. I think it was in that first game. I think he took a hit there, and I just don't think he was the same. It was either that game or it may have actually been the Minnesota game, because I remember he cut in the Minnesota game and went down. It was one of those 2 games, but
and he was never right, and yet still the team ran him into the ground, because when they got rid of Miles Sanders, they did not really have a legitimate running back 1. They just didn't.
Yeah, it's just, DeAndre Swift, I know he had a great season, but it's funny.
I love DeAndre Swift. I'm actually sad that he's not here, but they didn't ever use him like a running back 1.
Well,
every time that they were about to, every time that he had a breakout game, they went, and here's somebody else.
Well, it kind of started, the first game of the year, Kenny Gainwell's the starter. And then week 2 against Minnesota, you see him, DeAndre Swift go off, have a monster game. He had 2 or 3 monster games. The rest of the games were just And that's what made his numbers look a lot better.
Correct.
Than they actually were.
He signed a huge deal with Chicago because of those 2 games.
Yeah. And Rashad Penny couldn't even see the field, and we know why. He wound up retiring. He signed with the Panthers.
When I'm healthy, I'm one of the best running backs.
Yeah. And then a couple days later,
retires 5 days later.
Retires. So I think the Eagles knew what they had in him, and the reason, that was just a baffling situation last year, because if he really wasn't 100% or anything, I don't know why he was even on the roster. Just a waste of a roster spot. But again, that was last year. Don't have to worry about that. The new year is coming, so that's what we're most excited about. But just wanted to do a short kind of a reaction show. I want to do a couple stock up, stock down, and then we'll wrap it up and let everyone know what we got going on next week. So the first one, I'll do 2 stock ups and 2 stock downs, and I want to get your feeling on if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. Okay. If you agree with me, you can keep going on why you think that is. If you disagree, why you disagree. All right. So I'm going to start with stock up, and I'm going to go with Zach Bond. I brought him up earlier already. First thing this pod, and listen, his stock is up. He, in the OTAs, came in linebacker, one of the other inside linebacker ones next to Nakobe Dean. And that is still, to this day, in training camp. I think it's the second week of training camp now. He is still inside linebacker, one next to Nakobe Dean. So I think for him, the stock is definitely up for what you brought him over for.
I agree. Simply because, again, linebacker is another one of those positions where there's an opportunity and he's taking it. You're seeing him still running with the ones. Why? Because Nakobe Dean can't get on the goddamn field.
Yeah.
So I agree. Stock up.
Now we go to stock down. It's got to be Tyler Steen. He's in a position battle. I would assume.
It's a shame. It's a shame he's hurt.
Oh, no doubt it's a shame he's hurt. But it is a stock down when you can't get on the field and you're expected in your second season to take that role and to become the starter. And he's not able to be on the field. And a guy like Mekhi Becton, who's trying to revitalize his career, is getting those opportunities and those snaps at right guard. That may not bode too well for Tyler Steen. So it's going to be interesting to see here. But for me, definitely it's a stock down right now.
And unfortunately, I know it's better TV when we disagree. I agree. If you cannot be on the field, what are you supposed to do? Yeah. You had an opportunity to be on the best offensive line in football. and the 2.0 regeneration of it.
Yeah, you're right there. So my last stock up. Now this is where you will disagree with me.
Oh God.
That's what you want, though. You want to disagree. You don't want to agree all the time, right?
Go ahead, say Tanner McKee.
I actually wasn't going to say Tanner McKee
Thank God.
because I know you're feeling on that already. So for me to say Tanner McKee, you're going to bring up last year's open practice as
No, I'm just
your
gonna.
focal
I mean,
point
first off, it was.
of it.
I don't think you understand how bad that was. But just because it's the battle over QB2, who gives a rat's ass? If Jalen Hurts is hurt for a long period of time, this team's aspirations are not where we have them right now.
No, I agree with you there. You're right there. My stock up is going to be Milton Williams. And the reason
Show
I
your work.
say that is he's looking, from reports, he's looking really good in practice. He's up for a contract extension, which I believe the Eagles will extend him. He's getting his turn, his time to shine. And, he looks, from everything I'm reading, everything I'm seeing, he's looking like that guy that they thought he was going to be. That, a little undersized, but to play the end position in the 3-4, he has the quickness to get up the field. He's worked on his run defense for a couple of years here. I think he's going to definitely have a really, really good season, solid season, and he will be extended by the Eagles either before the season starts or maybe during the season.
So for me, and I actually like Milton Williams, so I don't know why you think I was going to smack you around on it. He is stock neutral.
I thought you were going to say no because of the whole Fletcher Cox thing and everything. That's the reason I thought you was like, nah, I don't know if I really agree with that.
Now, he, for me, is stock neutral because, it's great that he's dominating in practice. I love that. It's great that he's, showcasing all the things that he has learned. For me, I'm going to need to see him in game time action. I'm going to need to see him put some work on against, some ones and some sub ones and some guys who are going to be bagging groceries. I need him just to straight dominate and leave literally no decision for the coaches to make. Milton Williams is going to get some playing time. Okay. So he's stock neutral. I love that he's kicking ass in practice. That's phenomenal. He's the guy that I need to see be game ready.
Yeah, we'll see there. Now, my stock down. I was going to go a whole position group, like the backup safeties, but we already know stock's kind of down on that. So that's I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is my stock down is going to be Cooper DeJean. He's not on the field. I was going to go either him or Oren Burks, but we've already talked about the linebackers enough. We don't keep, beating a dead horse there, but Cooper DeJean, because he was going to be slated to play the slot. And he's not able to get on the field. So you see Quinyon Mitchell playing the slot, playing the outside. To me, what it's going to be is, and maybe Cooper DeJean is going to wind up being pushed back to be one of the backup safeties, play almost like a big nickel as an extra safety or whatever it may be. But Quinyon is looking really good, whether he plays the inside or the outside. You have Isaiah Rodgers and Keely Ringo. So I think those guys playing so well, and Cooper's not able to get on the field, his stock unfortunately has to be down because he's going to be a big time work in progress to get himself up to speed and where he needs to be, especially in a Vic Fangio defense. When you're a rookie trying to learn this defense and not being on the field to be able to get those reps and learn from the mistakes that you're making to be able to be a better player. So to me, that's why I have him as a stock down guy right now.
I think that's a fair assessment, though. I don't want to keep saying oh, if you're injured, your stock goes down. Again, we kind of understand that. But for a guy who, again, when you looked and you listened to everything that was coming out about him, that's another dude that's got to be on the field. He just has to. Yeah, so I think it's a fair assessment.
I was going to go with a Kenny Pickett as a stock down since Tanner McKee has been taking some second team reps. But I
You
didn't
didn't
do
want to see my head aneurysm in August?
I didn't do that. Listen, we'll see. We'll see what he looks like.
Who cares?
Well, the
I
quarterback
don't.
position.
I'm sorry. If I love the quarterback position, I'm not buying into the Philadelphia mentality of who the second string quarterback is. If it's McKee, cool.
You need
If
somebody who's reliable.
Cool. Either way, if Jalen Hurts is not running this offense, this team is not going where we want them to go.
If he's out a game or two, you want to make sure you have someone that's
It's gonna be Pickett. It's gonna be Pickett.
We'll see.
It'll be Pickett. If this team is any competition and not in rebuilding mode because of where they are from the first couple weeks of the season, it will be Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Well, we'll end it with that.
Which is also upsetting, by the way.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. You got to get a cheap quarterback. You're not going to pay $5 million for a backup. So
no,
you have what you have because last year you paid all that money for Mariota and he stunk. So yeah, I don't want that again. But well, it's not next week. It's this upcoming Wednesday, 8:30 show. We're going to have Ross Tucker on, talk a little bit about the Eagles and, everything going on there, get his takes, get what he sees, kind of an outlook for the Eagles. That should be a very fun show. And then we'll have, you and I will get three players each, kind of low roster guys, some bubble guys that we are excited and basically our guys that we hope are going to root for to make the roster. So that should be a fun show. And, with that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you for liking. Make sure you like, subscribe. Make sure you also go on to our accounts. We do have on X. I know it's pinned up to the profile. Instagram, it's on there as well. And Facebook, it's on there. But there is a giveaway that we're going to be probably right before the season starts. We are going to be giving away a $100 Fanatics gift card. But you have to like and repost the post on X. You have to make sure you're following us and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel.
You got to do stuff.
You got to do stuff. Everything is documented in there, and then we'll pick a winner and, get some gear for the upcoming season with whatever you want to get, whether you want to get the Eagles stuff, you want to, get Eagles and Phillies, you want to get Eagles Flyers, Eagles Sixers, whatever you want to get.
You got to do stuff, though.
You got to do stuff, though. But like I said, with that, we always end it with two words.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.